Hello. Today I came off of my deck because it's sitting around 48 degrees Celsius. And didn't want to melt my computer as well as my brain. Today I'm reading to you from The Art of Communicating by Thich Nhat Hahn. And he is an expert in facilitating communication between peoples who have had a lot of difficulties historically. This one is called Mutual Understanding in Challenging Situations. Compassionate communication is an extraordinarily powerful way to create mutual understanding and make changes. It can be used in situations where many people thought connection and communication impossible. It can transform situations where both parties are full of both fear and anger. I have seen this when we've hosted groups of Israelis and Palestinians in Plum Village. The first few days of such a retreat are always very difficult. In the beginning, both groups are full of fear, anger, and mistrust. The two groups don't even like to look at each other. They're so suspicious. They don't feel good when they look at each other because they have suffered a lot. And they believe that their suffering has been brought on by the other side. During the first week, we focused solely on communicating with ourselves. Both groups practice and train in mindful breathing, non-thinking, and deep listening to themselves. Only in the second week do we encourage the compassionate communication practices of deep listening and loving speech with each other. The group that speaks is encouraged to use the kind of language that could help the others understand the suffering they've gone through, the children as well as the adults. Each group tells the other about every kind of suffering they have undergone, but they do it using loving speech and trying not to blame or accuse. We advise the listening group to listen with compassion. If they hear a misperception, they shouldn't try to interrupt and correct because they will have plenty of time later on to help the other group correct their perceptions. When one group listens deeply to the other group, they recognize, maybe for the first time, that the other side has suffered very much, and that the suffering of the other group is very much like their own suffering, even if the circumstances are different. For many, it's the first time that they recognize people on the other side as human beings just like them, who have suffered just like them. When you understand their suffering, you feel compassion for them, and suddenly you don't hate them anymore. You're not afraid of them anymore. Your way of looking at them has changed. They see compassion and acceptance in your eyes, and right away, they suffer less. These sessions of deep listening are organized in such a way that people have enough time to listen and talk about their suffering. Some of us who were present at these sessions were neither Palestinian nor Israeli. We were monks, nuns, and lay practitioners who came to sit and breathe with them and support their practice. We practiced mindful breathing and offered the collective energy of peace and mindfulness so they could practice listening with compassion. Our presence with the two groups was very important. We created a collective energy that supported mindful speech. I think we can organize the same practice for ourselves or for any two groups that are divided. Sometimes Hindus are afraid of Muslims, and at the same time, Muslims are afraid of Hindus. In other situations, Muslims are afraid of Christians, and Christians are afraid of Muslims. We think of the other group as a threat to our survival and to our identity. The thing is to look deeply and see that not only on your side, but also on the other side, there's a lot of fear and suffering. In the beginning, we think that we are the only ones who suffer and have a lot of fear. But if we get close enough to the other side and look, we see that they also have a lot of fear of us and also of suffering. When we can see their suffering and fear, we suffer less already. When we're able to produce a compassionate thought, this thought begins to heal us, heal the other, and heal the world. Peaceful negotiations. I think if government officials organize peace talks the way we organize sessions of deep listening and loving speech, they would have more success in bringing reconciliation to opposing parties. When opposing parties come together to negotiate, they shouldn't negotiate right away. Each group has a lot of doubt, anger, and fear in them, and negotiating may be too challenging when these strong emotions are present. The first part of any peace initiative should be devoted to the practice of breathing, walking, sitting, and calming. Then the groups may be ready to listen to each other, and the desire and capacity for mutual understanding will be there to serve as a basis for successful negotiations. If the atmosphere gets too heated during the negotiation session and the tension's too strong, the chairperson should invite everyone to stop and breathe in and breathe out to calm themselves down. Even if someone is in the middle of addressing the group, everyone should stop and breathe in and out together. When I addressed a meeting of congressional representatives in Washington, D.C., I proposed a similar process. After that, we offered a retreat for a number of the representatives, and we practiced mindfulness together. That was many years ago, but there are a few members of Congress who still practice mindful walking on Capitol Hill. It's possible and very beneficial to bring compassionate communication and mindful speech into political life. There's no place where deep listening or loving speech are inappropriate. We don't need to save these techniques for a special occasion. They can be adapted to any situation and be helpful. If we use them now, we will have the understanding and insight we need to repair the damage we caused in the past and bring healing to ourselves, our families, our relationships, and our communities. And this is such a clear, mindful understanding of when people are suffering, how they attack one another and how they cannot listen to one another. So taking responsibility over your own energy, your own triggering, your own emotional reactions is where we begin. And he keeps telling us, first, we need to calm down and come home to the body with breath. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. It will give you notice when I'm doing my next reading, and you never know, it's kind of like knowing CPR. If you learn these things, you may be in a position where you can use them with great skill. Thank you.